Dear, the Diary of a Entrepreneur is the place that we start every week, and it's a place which is very befitting because, as always, I'll be running through my thoughts of the week and essentially my stream of consciousness from Sunday up until now. And it's been a little bit hectic this week, and in truth, I've almost fell out of the habit of documenting every thought that I had, but I managed to go through and collect the main ones from this week. And it's been a busy week, and I'll start with where we started with, and that was bringing a member on board, essentially not full-time, not even in a paid position as of yet, but I've brought someone on to work with in the editing space, someone who's watched and been a fan of the brand for quite a long time, someone who's super talented, super passionate, and understands the vision, most importantly, for the brand. And I really do believe in a couple of weeks, after we just sort of iron out the teething phase that you get when you start working with someone in that capacity, similar to when I started my podcast recently with someone that I had never even seen or met in real life, never had a conversation with more than once, you're going to get those teething processes initially, even just simple things: who sets up the account, sorting out the payment for it, sorting out who downloads the file, who exports it, who uploads it, who makes the thumbnail. It always takes a couple of weeks, but that leads me to my first point, which is this week I've just shifted again. I speak about identity. I spoke about it last week or the week before when it was in regards to my health and how I viewed myself as a healthy person, how I shifted my identity and started living through the mantra of what would a healthy person do, in very, very simple terms. What would a healthy person do? Well, they'd probably walk to the station, not get the cab. What would a person do if they were trying to save money for their business? They'd probably walk to the station and not get a cab. It's just having these questions being asked before you do certain things, just to sort of instill those habits. So at the start of this week, I thought, right, I need to shift my mindset. I need to shift my mindset from someone who's in their room on a phone creating an Insta page and almost shed this skin, if you like, as if a snake would, and sort of see it as another season for my business and for my brand, and shift from a place where I saw it as someone who had no idea what they were doing, no idea about the sport, very steep learning curve. I'm just trying to get a couple of people to engage with me. Right, okay, we've blocked that out, and that's very nice that I can do that this week, because it fits perfectly, because this week I also hit 20,000 followers on Instagram and also hit 60,000 followers on TikTok. And I never use those metrics as ways to measure the success of the business. In large part, they are vanity metrics. You do get positives that come along with those, undeniable benefits, like my messages appear in people's inboxes if I message them. That's a significant benefit. People don't really speak about these things, but it's a very, very big benefit, because if you now message people on Instagram, your message or your comment instantly shoots up to the priority list. So anyone that has an inbox or a notification stream which is just going to be inundated consistently, as soon as you hit 10,000 followers, you get a priority bar, which means anyone with a K next to their followers or a blue tick comes up first. Now that isn't a vanity metric. That's actually very, very useful, because now when you're reaching out to people, now when you're starting conversations, and now when you're messaging people with good things to say, with good value to give and empathy, and often at times it's just appreciating work in different capacities. Now when I reach out, people see it, which starts a lot more conversations. Now if I send out 100 DMs, a lot more of them are getting opened. At the start, when you've got 24 followers, you've got no social proof, no posts, no consistency, no theme, no professionalism, no bio, no bar or benchmark to tell anyone that they should have any faith or trust in you, people don't pay as much attention. So it was important that I sort of shed that idea and that notion of, okay, I'm just a kid in a room, no idea what I'm doing, I'm just trying to make an Instagram page. I get rid of that. I shift it. Okay, now I have an employee essentially. I have a team. I'm now a manager. I now have to navigate this ship. I am very much at the helm. I have someone to be accountable for. I have deadlines to be way more accountable to. I have someone's time, someone's energy, someone's belief, someone's faith in me. It almost hit me. Within an hour, it almost just hit me. This really sobering thought. Okay. Now it starts. Now it starts. Now we start getting into the trenches. We really can start getting our teeth into this thing now. Everything that I've said and believed and thought about before, up until this point, it's been an idea because I hadn't executed. But now I'm getting to a point where, okay, we're at a point, we've got some social proof, we've got some work, we've progressed, we've got an audience, we've got engagement, we've got projects, we've got consistency. Now we've got someone on board, and now it's time to elevate and separate my mindset to, right, okay, now I have to start treating this as a business, as a professional, and start really leveling this up. And I was speaking to Nathaniel in the gym about this page that reached out to him on Instagram. Very small account, 1,000 followers, something along that lines, in lockdown. And they messaged him the other day saying, thank you for the support early on our page. Really appreciate it. Now they have 500,000-600,000 followers. That's a macro audience. And that's very rare in the mixed martial arts space. There aren't a lot of platforms with that much audience. And I thought about it, and I thought, in my head, anything was always possible and capable. I always believed that, but I never even saw numbers like that and thought, you know what? I envisaged an Instagram looking like that. And again, I'm not getting caught up on the sole metric of that number, but it's more in the mindset of thinking similar to someone of that scale and that size and that magnitude within the respective industry, if that makes sense. So I started diving into it, and I thought, right, okay, we need to take this seriously. I need to start understanding my analytics. I need to start reverse engineering them so I can basically make success more predictable. I've alluded to the conversation I've had with my cousin many times about when we spoke about the YouTube and how to level that up, and it ultimately came down to, how obsessed are you? That's ultimately what it comes down to. How obsessed are you? If you want to do something to the 0.0001%, how obsessed are you at making that happen? Because if you're not 100% committed, then that isn't going to happen. And when I listen to conversations of Jimmy and Mr. Beast talk about how they started off on YouTube and how they got their analytics, how they broke them down, how they cross-referenced it against what people were doing well, how they done it authentic to them, how they leveled that up, and how they took and extracted answers from their analytics to basically minimize room for error and maximize success and the predictability of it. So that's what I did. I spent my Friday and Saturday night, I'm there at 1 a.m. and I've got the window open and I can hear people partying and celebrating, just having a house party, nothing crazy, just conversation in the garden. And I'm sitting there with my headphones on, listening to an Action Bronson Tiny Desk, and I'm thinking, okay, this really is life now. This really is life now. Like, this is, in a way, what I've always wanted. In a weird way, I always wanted to create a business of meaning, my own brand of meaning, create it successful, leverage it, do all these things, have these grand ideas and these grand plans. Well, this is what it looks like. It looks like Friday night, spending 2 hours up until 2 a.m. going through my analytics, finding my most successful posts, breaking them down, finding the average word count on the bio that I've written for it, finding the average word count for the headlines that I've used, finding the average composition placement of the picture that I've used. Is it a close-up? Is it multiple people? Are they in action? Is it a stationary shot? Is it a close-up, a tight angle, a far angle? Finding all the similarities in the best performing posts to find common similarities and cross-reference that with what other people are doing and how much they're doing it. I'm spending the evening going through just counting how many times a day these massive platforms are posting. But you need to be obsessed. You need to be obsessed. And that's why now I've gone away and I've found my top locations: Australia, America, UK, India. found the top cities, the top time zones, and I've put that into AI, and I've basically asked it to comprise those together and spit out the perfect optimized time to show what emotion throughout the day to appease those time zones. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Essentially, there are optimal times to post content throughout the day. So in the morning, if you can provide information that's more news related, that's more hot topic of conversation in the now, that's going to be a preference. So people in the UK time, they wake up in the morning, they like things which are recent, which are news. Towards the afternoon, a little bit more inspirational. Towards the end of the afternoon, when people are coming towards the end of their workday and they're looking for dopamine hits and pick-me-ups, they're looking for more meme-type content and funnier content. In the evening, food stuff's going to work a little bit well, but also motivational stuff. Towards the evening, you're going to have more of that inspirational photography, that sort of stuff, traveling and worldly content. So that's what I did. I got an answer back, summarized that, found the perfect breakdown timetable, split that, put it into a document, sent it over to my editor. Then I sent him what a breakdown day of that's going to look like in casuals terms. So we've got the news, we've got the day in the life, we've got the cooking video, we've got the photography from around the world, and then we've got an inspirational piece, usually a behind the scenes or something that I've been working on, or a piece like this. That's what a 5 day is going to look like. Right, cool. That's how I'm going to start elevating this game. And that's how I look at 20k, and I think that's not even a drop in the ocean. Again, not caring too much about that number, but it's not a drop in the ocean. And I think in the next, at the moment, I think it's working around about 3,000 followers a month. Let's just say that's a very generic, basic way of looking at growth, but let's just say that. Let's have a look at attention. So let's say 3 million on the platform across the month for this month. About average, bit below average. Let's get that to 4.5 consistently to 4.5, and I believe I can do that within the next 60 days. I think within the next 60 days, working with my editor, becoming more tunnel vision, and really breaking down my efficiency, I think I'm going to be able to increase that 50% for sure in the next 60 days. And that's a lot of views as well. It's a lot of views just on one platform. You're looking at essentially reaching absolutely everyone in the capital in just not much over a week, which is kind of insane, really. So it's a lot, but I'll tell you what, I've been enjoying it. Really have been enjoying it. Attaching things I watch to what I'm doing is my second point, and that again, it funnels into what I'm saying. It's the reason I call this Diary of a Entrepreneur. I said before, play on the words. It's also to hold myself accountable. It's also when I listened to that Alex Hormozy thing. But what I also did take from that conversation when he referenced about he read about what an entrepreneur was, and then he felt attacked and he thought, oh my goodness, that's what I'm doing, I need to change that. I had a similar feeling, but again, innately you know you're not that person, so I had to change things. But one piece of information which does ring true is when you fall into that category, even sometimes by mistake, you find yourself mentally masturbating a lot, watching a lot of these videos, and they can be operational and they can be really helpful, and it's not saying you're just watching these pie in the sky, airy fairy inspirational quotes and saying you're going to take over the world. No, these are legitimate people with credentials telling you how to do legitimate things operationally, some very good high level advice. But when you're not actually putting that in practice, you can't attach their advice to anything. So in your head, because it's not sticking to anything, it's nothing tangible there to attach it to, you can't have any lasting memory of that, and it's just forgot after that initial encounter of the video. And even if you make a note, again, it falls on deaf ears. You've got nothing to connect it to, so you can't feel attached to the purpose of what they're saying. But you realize the more you do, the more you emulate these people in terms of what they're doing. So for example, this week, obviously, the person now who I'm accountable to working with as an editor, now everything that I'm watching in regards to leadership and management and how to manage workflows and workforces and how to be most efficient, now I can actually attach it to what I'm doing. And now it's kind of cool because I can put it into real life. And now all the mistakes people were telling me not to make, I can say, cool, right, I'm not going to do those. And I'm going to try and learn from that. Of course, you're always going to make your own fresh mistakes, but that's inevitable. But you can minimize the amount you make. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do now. A lot of the management videos and workflow especially, because especially with what I'm doing, a lot of this stuff is time dependent. So it needs to be out on certain days. So it's imperative that I maximize workflow between me and my editor, so that I can have a good stream of communication, clear communication of what the project is, what the deadline is, what I expect from them, anything I have to add, anything they have to add. Do it collaboratively, do it efficiently, do it in somewhere where we can keep record of all those conversations, and also keep a nice consistent stream of documents, and do that frequently and consistently, and put out regular pieces of work like a GBTV every Tuesday, like these food fighter videos. And that's not easy to do, but I feel like even now I'm getting quite into the flow of it. I've spent the last few days getting a lot of stuff in place, to be perfectly honest. This is what I'm talking about, mindset shift. I've worked in companies where I've been onboarded, and I know what that looks like, and I know what it's like to have handovers and give briefs. And this is the thing, is like, that's the benefit that you get when you start working at 10 and having every job under the sun up till 24. And that includes the rubbish jobs when you're working in factories, but that also includes the jobs where, oh, I'm actually working in a market leading or global leading marketing company. Oh, I don't really know how I've got here, but this is actually a multi-billion pound industry, and I'm working in one of the best companies in it in its entirety that are turning over a lot of money. So I've been fortunate enough to see processes at every level and sort of pick things apart from that. And I think the more I recognize them and I just put into simple terms now, I think, okay, what did I like? What worked well for me? What would I have liked more of from that manager, or more of, or less of that? And I've gone over all the jobs and the millions of jobs that I've had, and I've had bar managers that have taught me some incredible lessons, and I've been at Deutsche Bank where I should probably have learned many better and deeper ones that I learned just working in a bar, because lessons and advice come from so many different places and come in the form of so many different guises. And it's something I touched on last week, but I was so much more thoughtful this week about diving into Rick Rubin and really looking at his philosophy for creativity and diving into things like that. And he spoke about a mindset which I'm really championing and trying to embrace, and it's what I spoke about recently in regards to just being quite lucid in what I take inspiration from, and not putting too much stock in one thing and not enough in another. Just sort of trying to be as perceptive to conversation and art and design in any form. And I truly mean that, in any form whatsoever. And I think I'm doing a much better job at that. And someone that does that better than anyone is Rick Rubin. So his podcast and his just listening to his mindset and how he thinks is just making me double down on that. And I think creatively, that's making me better than ever, and it's making me more clear-headed than ever in regards to the business endeavors. And I think at the moment things are just again starting to click. Okay, I've brought this person on board. How can I maximize their skill, what they can do best, whilst making that job as easy as I can for them and as enjoyable as I can for them? Right, how can I do that? Let me really sit down and think about combining all the things I've learned, seen and experienced of how I can do that. Right, what does that actually look like? It probably looks like me spending 12 hours this weekend of creating all these documents, all these channels of communication, all these guides to follow, or brand packages or details or things where you're just going to have all the information, all the FAQs that you need, and then just be very clear in communication of your role. I think that's really going to get us to a good foot. Then if I can add in the discords, the multiple channels for the different projects, then add in the documents to those so they're easily findable and searchable so you can find them whenever you need them, I think I can do that. Okay, cool. And then I think I can have good communication about how we're going to start our short, medium, long-term plans. I think I can do that. Cool. What I expect from you, I think I can do that. What do you expect from me? I think I can do that. Cool. And now we're off to a good start, and it's only been a couple of days. And now I analyse it and I think, right, give me 2 months. I think I'm going to start doing some crazy stuff. I genuinely believe that. And that's not just me. That's because I understand where my limitations are. Again, trying to learn from if I'm standing tall, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, is always a saying that always rings true. And all the podcasts I'm listening to, all the people that are so amazing at what they're doing, just learning from their mistakes. And I think that's something that everyone says that I'm more than happy to do, is just remove the ego and understand, right, I'm okay at editing. I'm okay at sound design now. I've taught myself up to a decent level where I understand it. I can be proficient in a conversation. But I also understand that to take it to the next level, that needs to be better. I completely understand that. Now that I've brought Louis on board, perfect. Now he's a really skillful and we can put projects and ideas together and start executing consistently. I can level up there. Perfect. What does that allow me to do? Well, that allows me free time to actually operate these projects operationally, like actually go through them and how can we make these more efficient? Diving into the analytics, getting the feedback loop from all the content that we're making and reshifting the strategy if necessary. A/B testing, split testing, making more proficient on the bios and the comments and all things like that. Keeping the engagement good. Then actually doubling down into what I think is going to be effective and necessary for the growth of this business. And I was speaking to Leo this week. I spent the morning with him filming at Great Britain Top Team, and he came along with me. If you don't know who that is, that's who I filmed the podcast with. And he came along and filmed basically the behind the scenes of what I was doing. So now that I got a full day in the life video that I sent over to the editor, now I can start showing the process behind the curtain and start getting that element of content out consistently. And now that's really going to feed into creating that media image, that entire company image, because that's the thing. Sometimes it doesn't matter how big of a business are, it's how big of a business are you acting. Because front facing now, when I start cementing in the GBTV, which is the weekly series, it's like, right, cool, now we're showing the day of the life, and now we've got these pillars and these anchors of content. Social proof is growing, the final project is growing, the output's nice, we're engineering our own lane essentially, because no one's doing day in the lives in the MMA media game. Absolutely nobody. Nobody's showing you what that looks like. Nobody's showing you the behind the scenes really. And we're doing that at a good consistent level. It's like, right, cool, now we can do that. Now we can start leveling it up. And because we did that day in the life, Leo said one thing to me on the train which really just stuck out to me. He said, well, it didn't stick out to me, that's the truth. He turned to me on the train and he went, oh, by the way, that food fight stuff that you're doing, that's your golden goose. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, cheers, mate. In my head, and I said to him, I was like, you're right. I knew that he was right. But then I get home and I'm writing down what's happening in the day, and I'm writing that down and I'm thinking about it, and I'm sat there and I'm pondering and I'm stewing and I'm thinking, no, he's right. Like, really think about what he's saying. He's very, very right. That is my golden goose. And even though I knew that and I had that conversation internally many times, when you're in your own echo chamber and you're bouncing those voices in your own head, you don't hear it from a different perspective. And you don't get caught off guard by the conversation. And you don't think about it again down the line in a different manner. And I did. It just caught me off guard. It just came out of nowhere, really, in the conversation. And then I thought, yeah, you're really right. Food Fighters is the golden goose. Because if I double down on this, I can still maintain the media company side of it, because I'm still creating the day in the lives. I'm still going to be able to keep consistent with the other forms of content, because I can do it to a very efficient level now where I can churn it out very quickly and I can do it in very short periods of time. I can do that. And now I can double down on the food videos. I've got an editor that I can work with more consistently, get a good consistent product, get a nice core sort of skeleton of a video and get a nice consistent theme to it so people recognize it. And then I can start making at least one video a week of fighters' favourite foods and meals. There's a channel that does it on TikTok that does it for footballers. That's incredibly famous. I can mimic the blueprint of that, but obviously add my own authenticity, my own feel to it. I've done it before, twice, 3 times even. Brendan Moreno, Paddy Pimlet, they done extremely well. And now I need to take my own voice and double down on what does well for me and double down to what's authentic. And I look at a world and I think, right, okay, let's just say this goes crazy in a couple of months. Let's say this goes crazy and my set becomes permanent. I've got a weekly spot essentially where I book in one person a week, or even if I'm traveling and I'm doing one a week or one every fortnight, and I'm just doing the cooking and doing the interviews, and that's the main theme of my content. I think, how do I feel about that? I bloody love it. Are you joking? That's perfect. That's exactly what I've always wanted, really, when I think about it. And I'd always done this other stuff because I wasn't sure what the end game was, essentially, and I knew I needed to gain attention. So I did that to leverage my own brand and to learn how to get attention, which I've started doing now on a better level when I'm continuing to progress. But the end goal was always to use that leverage then to allow myself the freedom to go into a completely rogue field, which is not completely rogue, but my own lane essentially. Because when I started out, I looked at all these people that were doing similar things to what I wanted to do, and there was a common similarity, a common theme. Everyone knew who they were. They were massive brands in the MMA world. So I thought, no one knows who I am. So when I do these things, not only are they not good because I don't really know what I'm doing, no one knows who I am. So they're rubbish and I have no street cred, essentially. What it comes down to. I was going to say social status, but it's essentially what it comes down to. So no one cares. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to have to at least find out how to get some leverage, how to get some eyeballs. Okay, cool, now I know how to do that. You're sort of averaging around 7 to 10 million a month. That's a fair amount of people. Now how can we reverse engineer this into doing what I like? Cool, we've got the food stuff. Right, now we've got evidence that it works. Now we know how to create videos better. Now we've got the editor stuff. Right, everything's come on top a little bit. Let's double down. Let's absolutely double down. And I'm putting it on record because it's clear now that I need to double down short and long form into the Food Fighters episodes. More consistent and more thoughtful. And it's as simple as that, really. Simple as that. Which really brings me into my last point of the week, which I'll round us up and then finish us on that. Short one this week, but the reason it's short is because I'm working to a strict deadline, which kind of segues us into our next one. And I watched Alex Hormozy's Day in the Life breakdown. Not only watched it from a perspective of trying to get some inspiration and how it was edited and how they told the story and how they integrated different elements of his day and the pacing of it. Again, going back to being obsessed, seeing everything for what it is initially. Okay, hook in the first 3 seconds. Within the first 6, he's telling us what we're going to get out of the video. In the first 10, it's going to tell us how we're going to get that. And then the next 12, it's going to tell us what we need to provide. And we're basically being told everything we're going to get in this video. We're given a teaser, we're given a little insight, the pacing's this, a million different nuances to a video that I'm trying to break down when I watch things now to understand why things are successful. But also, one piece of advice I extracted out of the video itself is just how he breaks down his day. And he said that if he goes and breaks down his calendar into 15-minute increments, he finds that he's a lot more accountable to his calendar and he gets a lot less things missed. And it's so true, because I know when I've done that previously, I've been the exact same. I've just never done it consistently. But I've never had anything to be truly accountable enough for to be as painstakingly consistent as you need to be with things like that. Now I do. So I spent, again, 2 a.m. on the Friday night, headphones in, and I sat there just packing out a Google calendar. And anyone that knows me knows that I've never been that person. I've never been super organized. I've never been this things. But again, identity. That's a weak identity. I need to get rid of that. I just don't even identify as a person that ever thinks in that way ever again, and I never will do. Because I can't. And sometimes there's places where you can be flexible and be a bit more yourself and authentic. It's true. And there's sometimes where you can't, and you just need to be able to say, you know what, I need to grow up and I need to be more efficient at timekeeping. I need to be more scheduled in with my hours. And it's not saying, okay, I need to be creative from this time to this time. I've left things like that a little bit more ambiguous. But there's a ton of stuff that I can pencil into time periods where I can be more adherent to 100%. 100% I need to. It's simple as that. So I've done it. And now my calendar looks absolutely insane. And when I look at it, it's packed out. But it gives me this sort of weird... It's hard to explain, really. it gets me really excited. And I show you it there, and I don't even know if you can see it, but I sort of scroll down, you can see it's packed out because I'm putting every minute of the day. It's like, right, okay, I get up, what am I doing? Okay, I make my morning coffee, find out any news, put my first piece of content out, right, then what we're going to do is film, then what we're going to do is edit, send across, and now I can work to these timelines, and you don't do that thing where it's okay, I put one thing on my to-do list and spend a whole day doing that. It's like, right, I've got an hour to do this, I'm going to spend an hour doing this, next thing, and you can really be a lot more proficient. So yeah, just leveling up. Leveling up. That's all we can do, really, isn't it? And they're the good things, I guess. You hear that and I get excited, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't sitting there on the Thursday evening, the Friday evening, the Saturday evening, inevitably the Sunday evening, with the window open, hearing the parties, going on my phone, seeing my friends at the parties, and you sit there and you think, years do slip away a lot quicker now. It's not like when you're 18 and a year of your life is like 5%, so it goes so slow and you couldn't even imagine what 24 months looks like. Months slip away quickly. 6 months slip away quickly. A year goes by, you haven't even noticed. People that you used to speak to every day, you haven't spoken to in 4 years, and it feels like only yesterday, and you haven't even looked up or realised. And I feel that. I really feel that, and that's the truth. Like that's the truth. I feel that. I feel a lot of relationships and a lot of friendships almost slipping away, and that's not from any ill will. That's not from anything personal. Again, it's just shifting that mindset into I have to do everything, which is going to enable me to just essentially just dominate. Just dominate. If I put it into the perspective of mixed martial arts, I want to become world champion. I want to become world champion. I don't want to get into the UFC. I don't want to have a couple of fights. I don't want to maybe get a ranked opponent one day. I want to be a world champion. And I understand that the sacrifice to that you hear so much about, is the friends, is the birthdays, is the meals, is the families, is the outings. But it is true. And every now and again, I remind myself that because I've suppressed that so much, and I know so much that I want this, and I always have, and because I've wanted it from such a young age, when that vision's become clearer, I've just doubled down on how badly I wanted it. It's almost in a position where I've suppressed these subconscious thoughts of telling myself that I don't enjoy any of those things. But I do enjoy those things. I really do. I do enjoy spending time with my friends, being in social settings and spending a day at the cricket or the tennis or a day at the park with a few snacks and they're watching it on the big screen, or whatever small endeavour it is, whatever it's just chilling in the garden having a barbecue on a Sunday evening, or whether it's going to one of their birthdays or just having a meal there, or they're referencing stories and I have no idea what's happening because I can't go to any of these. I can't spend money on it and I don't have the time. And it sounds stupid at the time because people think, oh, it's only one day or it's only one night. But they compound, and then maybe you go to bed later because you still have to do that thing, and then you get up later and you can't do as much the next day, and it affects you, and it's a repeating cycle. And then the money you've spent is you don't have as much anymore because now you have to pay your online subscriptions, and now you have to pick up an additional day of work because now you went out for 2 meals that month. You don't have the money to pay for all your subscriptions and your editors, so now you have to pick up another day of doing one-to-one sort of, whether it's working as a PT or picking up a side job, because you can't have anything that takes responsibility because all your responsibility is on your main brand. So you just need something that's cash in hand, which is going to pay rubbish and which is going to be labour intensive and tiring and long hours probably, and you're going to have to pick up another day. And I'm sat there and just I'm starting to realise it all because I'm thinking, right, I'm getting to 25 now, and I hear Gary Vee talk about it. If he could do anything differently, he would have went back and said, you know what, you can enjoy your 20s a little bit more. You can go to that event. You can go and do that. You can do this. And I think to myself, am I going to regret this? I do. I know it sounds a bit deep, but am I going to regret this? And am I going to regret this period in my life where it's this bliss period of youth where in reality I don't have many responsibilities and I do have all the freedom and I do have all the youth on my side? Am I going to regret it? You never know. You never know. But then in that conversation, when I say you never know, and I'm questioning myself, am I going to do that? And I'm asking myself that question, I'm then saying, well, again, let's reverse engineer that. Why am I doing that? Well, I'm doing it to try and get to a position where at 32 years of age, I've leveraged my brand, my position, my revenue streams enough because I've been as obsessed, as aggressive as I could be from the ages of 23 to 33, that now I'm in a position where I can fly my mum first class anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world she wants to go at any time. I can say, you don't need to work your job anymore. I can pay your mortgage off. And simpler than that, I can have the money available to get people to do tasks and responsibilities, which is going to allow me more free time so I can just do simple things. And I'm not even letting my mind wander to necessarily crazy extremes at the moment, but simpler tasks like I might just want to do something creative. Sit in a garden on a sunny afternoon and paint. And maybe that's because I have now got the leverage in regards to funds for someone to be able to pick up a task like edit my podcast, which I have to spend 3 hours doing. Now I can replace that 3 hours. Simpler things like that. And I think, well, if that's the sacrifice, and although I know I need to be patient and know this is a 10-year game and know that nothing good is probably going to happen till at least year 8 and I'm only 2 years in, if that's the why, and if the goal is to do that, try and bring that 8 years as fast as I can, if I can move my little legs to that 8-year mark as quickly as I can and get those results a little bit quicker, so that my mum and family can benefit off them sooner rather than later, then I make that trade-off every single time. Every single time. 100 times out of 100. So I don't, to be honest. I don't. And I won't regret it. I won't. And that is embracing in itself, and it's liberating almost in itself, because I can double down even more, because there's no voice in my head anymore, really none, that says, oh, it's Friday night, like, go and enjoy it, you know, go and do something, maybe even if it's a little weekend away, just go and enjoy it. No, I take enjoyment from different things now. Sitting down with some nice food, watching a UFC card with my headphones in, thoroughly enjoy it. Doing this podcast, thoroughly enjoy it. Cooking with my mum in the kitchen, thoroughly enjoy it. Times I get to just walk in the forest with my mates and have a chat, thoroughly enjoy it. And I've started taking so much joy from these things and so much enrichment from these things, like genuinely, like really, really enjoying these things, trying to be more present whilst I'm doing them, that I don't want or need for anything else, to be honest. So it's almost like I'm winning whilst I'm winning. And I feel in this position now, it's just like, I feel unstoppable. And now I've brought this editor on board, I think, really watch out, because of course I'm going to make mistakes. Of course I'm not going to do things perfect, but best believe I'm going to try hard to do as many perfect things as I possibly can. And I feel like now I'm putting together a plan and a master plan that I can execute on, and I can see a path to victory now. I know I'm ready to implement my game plan. But as always, I appreciate you for checking in. All the people that listen to the end, listening, walking the dog, or chilling on a Sunday evening, whether you watch it or just have it through coming through the earphones or the speaker, I very much appreciate it. And as always, keep it casual.